Smoking causes cancer. And if you're like, well, we know that now, we've known for almost 100 years. And if that's surprising to you, that's because the tobacco industry spent the 20th century lying about it. They knew it caused cancer, and they lied about it. They knew it was addictive, took steps to make it more addictive, and they lied about it. They targeted children, and they lied about it. A sophisticated and deliberate campaign of disinformation was used to create doubt about the science and to avoid culpability for over 100 million deaths. One of those was my father. He was 38. 7 months before he was diagnosed with lung cancer, the United States government granted the tobacco industry immunity from prosecution. In return, the industry would pay $200 billion over the course of 2 decades, or less than 1% of their annual profits. 6 weeks after my father died, the Supreme Court ruled that tobacco could not be regulated by the FDA. That's what this game is about. How they lied and how they got away with it. And it's about the people who try to hold them accountable. About scientists and activists, lawyers and politicians, public health officials, journalists, all fighting this uphill battle against a well-funded opponent that was deeply entrenched in American culture. This was a highly asymmetric conflict, and is represented by a highly asymmetric game. Each of the two sides has its own components, mechanisms, rules, essentially playing separate games, though they do intersect at key points. The industry is playing an economic engine game, a deck builder. You use advertising and cultural inertia to increase your profits, or protecting those profits with disinformation and using your lobbyists to oppose legislation. You fatten your deck and thin it to shift your strategy, setting up for major campaigns, for big turns when you're doing multiple things at once. The movement is playing a political tableau builder, trying to bring together these different people toward common goals. When you buy a new card from the market, it'll perform the action on that market space, and the strength of that action is determined by the cards already in your tableau. Adding new cards can accrue tiny advantages over time. You'll need to counter disinformation, ultimately in pursuit of decreasing the number of smokers while pursuing legislation that will change the culture. While I was growing up, smoking was everywhere. It was in restaurants and bowling alleys, it was in airports, it was on TV and in movies, it was in comic books and magazines. Most of the adults I knew smoked. Family, neighbors, teachers. One of my chores growing up was to sort through a garbage bag full of discarded cigarette packs to find Marlboro points so my mother could get a new hat or duffel bag. That's not the world I live in now. The removal of smoking from public life in America is a huge shift that I never would have dreamed of. That was won for us by decades of activism and education and research, of sustained effort in the face of despair. It's important to recognize that we can change the world that's been handed to us. It's not immutable or impossible. And it's also important to recognize that under capitalism, the people responsible will almost always get away with it. And it's these two things, this hope and this despair, that I'm trying to express in this very personal game. Thank you.